I'm Jay Horton. I make movies that make money. This is how. It's gotten extremely difficult over the past few years to make a profit off of an ultra-low budget independent movie. With stuff like oversaturation, stiff competition, pay rates dropping like rocks, all hurting our bottom line, it's become more important to have a solid plan to market and release your movie than ever before. Today I'm going to give you the first step towards making movies that make money. Not Rockefeller rich type money. I'm talking about making small, modest, independent movies that allow you to make a living as a filmmaker. So you can stop spinning your wheels making movies that earn mere pennies a month and start making movies that people are eager to watch. So let's get right to it. What's the secret? I'm going to give it away right at the top. You simply give the viewers what they want. Oh, well, that's simple enough. I guess we're all done here. Wait, how the hell do I do that? Well, that's where it gets a little more complicated. First off, this is a process that should start at jump. Before you write a single word of your screenplay, you need to examine the current marketplace. Examine the marketplace? But I just want to make movies. If all you want to do is make movies, then get ready to keep that day gig. If you want to make movies that people actually watch and earn money, keep watching. Now, a lot of you out there were triggered by what I just said and are going to be very resistant to what I'm about to lay out. You're a sellout, bro. What happened to just making what you love? Isn't that the most important thing? We're fucking artists after all. Well, that very well may be. But I'll let you in on a secret. I do both. I make the movies that I love and I make movies that keep me eating. These are not mutually exclusive things. You can have your cake and eat it too. So how? How do you do this? Well, first off, you pick a genre that you know inside and out and that you genuinely enjoy. A lot of first-time filmmakers turn to horror, and why not? It's fairly cheap to make, doesn't lean heavily on star talent, and film history is littered with very successful filmmakers that kicked it off here. I personally started out in horror, and I still love to make it. It's actually my genre of choice. Now, I'm not telling you to go out and make a horror movie, unless horror is what you know and are very passionate about. I'm just using it as a jumping off point. There are a metric shit ton of other genres that you can clean up with too. So that's the first step. Pick something that you like to watch. What genres move you? And I'm not saying you have to stick with the genre for the long run either. In fact, it's just the opposite. As you move on and make more movies, branching out becomes essential. I guess the point is there are a ton of easier ways to make money. So if you're going to make movies, make the kind of movies you enjoy. And if it's something that you're into, chances are there's an audience for it. You just have to figure out who they are, where they are, and how to reach them. Now that you've got your general genre picked, now it's time to get a little more specific. What specific things do fans of that particular genre want to see at the budget level that you're making your movie? Audience expectations for a $10 million Blumhouse horror movie are going to be drastically different from those of a $50,000 zombie splatter movie. It's important to find other movies in your genre that are also at or around your budget level and see how they're performing in the marketplace. So how do you decipher this? Numbers, baby. Numbers. How do you find these numbers? Well, this is where things get a little more interesting because most indies are doing their predominant business in the world of streaming. And in streaming, numbers are not readily available or easy to find. So given that, how can you actually tell what movies are making at your budget level? Well, you might not be able to get an actual hard number, but you can kind of figure out a ballpark. This is where the homework begins. Start with IMDb. Use it to seek out other movies in your intended genre that were made at or around your budget level. Now, a good number of indie filmmakers lie about their budgets, but the budget listed on IMDb will at least give you an idea of what it was at. And usually if you cross-reference that with the quality of the movie's poster art and trailer, you can kind of figure out where it sets. Another thing you can look at is to see if the movie was DIY distributed or if it's with a real distributor. If it is through a distributor, I might reach out to them and inquire about what genres are currently doing well for them. They might not tell you, but I think you'll be surprised at how many will actually give you a decent answer. If it's DIY, I'll reach out directly to the filmmaker. Then I head over to the Google machine. See if the movie or filmmaker has a social media presence. How is their social media interaction? Are people talking about the movie? Is this type of movie easy or hard to get social media interaction with? This is going to be a major factor later in marketing, so it's good to get a little sneak peek at what some others are dealing with. And if it's a genre that's hard to get social media traction with, you may want to think twice. For example, horror. It's often hard on places like Facebook to push art or trailers that have blood, guns, or violence featured heavily in them. Now, that doesn't mean you can't push horror there, it just means you have to be a little more clever and work a little harder. That said, if your horror movie is a major bloodbath and that's the whole hook, you may have a hard time pushing it on places like Facebook. The toughest part of this is a lot of the information you're going to get is not going to be hard facts. You have to learn to read between the lines. But if enough of these factors point towards a particular hypothesis, the more chance that it's true. Another thing. Is this genre thirsty? What's a thirsty genre? Well, it's one that people want, one that there's a need for, but one that isn't completely oversaturated. Almost 10 years ago, I met a filmmaker named Jean-Claude Lemar. He was a very successful supporting actor in big Hollywood movies in the 90s. He had significant sized roles in stuff like Malcolm X, Fresh, and a bunch of others. He parlayed that success into a career as a filmmaker. One of his first and biggest successes was a tiny budgeted movie called Pastor Jones. This was back in 2006, I think, before Tyler Perry was a major thing, and almost no one was making Christian-based movies for an African-American audience. Jean-Claude saw a need, and he filled it. This little tiny movie, made for a few $1,000s, moved over 100,000 units in Blockbuster that year, dwarfing big budget releases, and it set Jean-Claude off on a career that is still going today. He saw an opportunity in the market for a genre he was passionate about, he wanted to see more movies like it, and knew other people did as well. Several years later, I started directing movies for a company that followed a similar model. They eventually moved into several different genres following all those same steps and were very successful. With every single movie they did, they looked at the market first, determined what it needed, and gave it to them. Now, I will say this. If you make a really good movie in a very crowded marketplace, the cream will rise to the top. If you make something that's just so good that people can't ignore it, it'll break through. But that said, why set yourself up for a harder climb? So pick a genre that you love, but one that's innately easier to make some money in. Picking the right genre for you and the marketplace is the first step towards making movies that make money. If you make movies that not only you want to see, but you know that others are hungry for too, it's much harder to lose. If you're enjoying my videos, please subscribe. And don't forget to hit the thumbs up. Really helps with my fragile ego. If you'd like to help me increase the quality and frequency of these videos, please consider supporting me on Patreon. But whatever you do, keep making movies.